Hello my sea Cyclopses, Seabro here, and today we are going to have a look at a Master Sigma player on Illios. This peep chucked a VOD review request on the Overwatch University subreddit. It's console gameplay, and I'm guessing that this is the right person because yet again someone didn't put the game name on the post, and that makes me want to scream! Okay, nice balls. Let's see what both teams run out with. You're running double shield, and for some reason you have a Lucio despite having nobody that wants to be sped in. He's 100% going to feed his DJ brains out whilst he runs in alone into the enemy backline looking for some insane boops. Junkrat has really good shield break, especially against single shield. He'll be mega useful, but Soldier kind of needs to take off angles to get much value. Sadly, I wouldn't hold my breath for Lucio to be with you most of the time. You probably won't have any healers on any of the off angles you take, so you can't go mega crazy. The enemy has this really strange hybrid comp. They will probably be playing split, Tracer will probably be playing alone, Mercy Echo will probably be staying together, Hog will probably be his own unit, and on this map, Lucio will be doing something stupid, and Ryan will feel completely lost. Obviously, you haven't seen their composition yet, but their heals suck, so your team's going to want to play slow and just spam. And you're going to want to be in a position to control the map so that their splits can't do much. But at the same time, you have to be fairly safe because you won't have any heals. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant and a half, let's continue. Okay, so we take an immediate off angle, you kind of have to because Soldier. Nice pick on the Mercy. You desert your Soldier to the Roadhog. Shield not doing anything. Shielding nothing. As Sigma, you really want to be careful about taking too much damage to your shield. You really need it to be ready and on as high HP as possible for the mid fight. Because this is when the enemy's going to engage or you're going to engage the enemy. It's a habit even Overwatch League and Contenders players have, where you shield because you feel like it rather than because you actually think it's a good idea. Like, what are you shielding? You have 400 HP of health, use it. If the enemy pushes you when your shield is on like 100 HP or less, or you push the enemy, then you're Soldier and you are pretty defenseless and you can't really do much. That is why it's really important that early in the fight you keep really good shield health, so that you can use it later on when you need it. This position isn't bad, but your focus should be on enabling your Soldier and limiting the value of the enemy Roadhog and Tracer. Your value spamming the enemy that is out of range most of the time is very small. Why are we shielding here? Orisa doesn't need you. Shielding the Echo Beam is usually great, but if your team doesn't need your shield, don't use it. Also, long range shields as a reaction aren't great because it will take a lot of damage, and by the time it arrives, it's probably really bad timing. Really nice push. Go you. They have changed to a Pharah now, so your shield needs to be ready to block Pharah spam. And Roadhog hooks, so you need to be really careful with it. This off angle is really aggressive when you don't have a healer. Let me go into bird's eye view real quick. Right, so this off angle is fairly safe here. You deny the enemy Roadhog, and if they push into your Orisa, you can collapse in on them. Really nice, love that position. If you push here, then your Baptiste is not going to do anything to help you. Your Lucio, I'll tell you now, is not going to speed you out or give a damn about you. He's just looking for plays to put on Reddit and brag to his friends. You here, 1, might die, or 2, Baptiste might be tempted to yeet his immortality field or go out of position to try and save you. Either way, without a healer to push with you, you can't push forward very safely. You don't have good sightlines to be able to see where the enemy is coming from, because this door is literally right in front of you, and your route of retreat is very far and not in LOS of your healers. Also, you aren't close enough to the core of your team to really help out or do anything if Pharmacy plays aggressive. Rewind! Okay, so your soldier did make a bit of a boo-boo, but so did you. Your soldier can do Jackal without you against the Tracer, Lucio and Hog, who can all punish him. Especially when he's ulting, you need to be with him like glue. Hold hands, be friendly. Once your soldier dies, you should run back to your team. You don't get any value here at all really, and 1, you can get run down by the enemy, but 2, your range isn't long enough to do anything and get any value. Yes, you would let the Roadhog get a nice flank angle on you, but you can get much more value by stacking your shields with your team and preventing Pharah spam. Whenever you review one of your games as Sigma, and someone gets hooked by this fat dude here, I want you to take that as a personal insult. The other thing is Baptiste has his ultimate, right? When he's about to pop window, you really should think heavily about stacking shields with Orisa, because it will enable him to get so much more value out of his amplification matrix. But also, you can prevent the enemy trying to flank and nullify Baptiste's window. It's quite common, right, when Baptiste tries to use his window that somebody will come around the back and try and flank. And then your entire team turns around to try and deal with this person and doesn't use his ultimate. But your shield and your accretion can be a perfect counter to, let's say, if Roadhog does it. Or Tracer. Nice. Don't get me wrong, Junkrat is being a bit of a silly billy, but assume that everyone on your team that you are not potted up with has a P-brain. You are doing nothing here, so you may as well push forward enough just in case your junk needs you. There is a really nice quote, I think it was from Jane, and I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing it a bit, but it was like, 1 person overextending is feeding, but 6 people overextending is a plan. Or it's something like that. I probably butchered the quote. But the moral of the story is, if your team are being stupid, you should also be stupid. I don't know if that came out right, but you get my point. Again, anytime you don't have a healer with your group you are playing split with, be really careful about how far you push, because better teams will punish you the hell out of you for that. You are already up 2. You have Bongo, so there isn't really any need for this. In fact, if you end the fight quicker, you are actually doing them a favour, because if you finish the fight before 86% I think it is, point progression, then they can probably get an extra fight very comfortably. Honestly, just be a Chad. Jump over here and be a massive pain. There is 4% point progress left. It'll piss the hell out of them to have a random Sigma in their backline. Without an Orisa hold, I wouldn't really bother trying to rock a Pharah. It's very unlikely to do anything. One thing I would say is with Sigma, after you've shot 2 shots, you have to wait. There's like a cooldown, right? Try to get into the habit of using that time to look around. Here you are currently shooting the Pharah, who isn't a bad target, don't get me wrong. But if you got in the habit of checking out what's going on around you at the same time, then you might find an enemy that's better to shoot. Sigma is somebody that requires an absolute shit-ton loads of awareness of what's going on around you, so getting into the habit of constantly looking around between shots is a really useful habit to get into. shielding nothing. Once Orisa dies, you become Orisa. Both of your DPS are still alive, but they aren't going to get much value without your shield. If Orisa dies, then your shield needs to be the one to protect the core of your team, because they are important and you'll lose if they die. You're playing alone here, right? Sigma is like a butler, right? Your DPS, whether that's an Ashe, Widow or Hanzo, or like in this case, a Soldier or Junkrat, if they want to position somewhere away from the core of your team, your reaction is, yes sir, let me help you with that. If someone is jumping on your team, then your reaction is, don't worry ma'am, I'll deal with this. He is not the character that does a lot by himself, but he's really useful when playing around his DPS. In this case, both your Soldier and your Junkrat die because you were taking the day off to shoot something that you know very well you won't be able to kill. And we die, let's go again. Okay, so we see Soldier is doing something fancy. Yes sir, let me be straight with you should be your answer. Trace is a hero that can get out whenever she likes, whenever she pleases. It's not worth going on a wild goose chase for.
Barrier in place. Retrieving the barrier.
Again, we're playing by ourselves. You did create a distraction for your team, and they didn't follow up on it. But if you ever found yourself surrounded by absolutely nobody on your team, it probably should start ringing alarm bells. You don't really know where the McCree or Roadhog is, and you're kind of in the open here. You don't actually know where any of the enemy is before you ult. So that kind of tells me that you don't have a plan of how exactly you're going to use it. I know it sounds obvious, but think about what you're going to do with your ultimate before you press that Q button. This is a bit of a risky position. Again, I said this earlier, but if Baptiste is going to ult, then being with him to stop those pesky flankers badgering the backline is a good plan. I am such a big fan of off angles. I feel like I'm giving the impression that they are somehow bad, but especially in rank, they can be absolute carnage. But if the other shield tank dies, if the people you are with die, so you are alone, if your team have an ultimate up that gets more value if you're there, or if there is nowhere suitable to set up, then you should just go back to the core of your team. Recognising when to play split and when to play grouped up can be pretty hard even for the highest ranks of Overwatch. Anyways, that was a rant and a half, let's continue. Point, no shield. Pointless shield. I'm not too fussed about your ball chamberlain because it's just to get back in time. What is your plan here? What is your plan? That's a Roadhog. Okie dokie, next round. We are on Ruins now. Sightlines are slightly worse for spam. They have an Ashe, a Widow and a Hog that are going to need your attention of your shield. We do have a Mercy, so you can push a bit more aggressively now. Thank God he changed off Lucio. Also, you now have an Ana, and there is a good chance that she nano visors, and that's going to be even more important than last round that you shield that. How have people already died? Jesus! Okay, I will hold this against you because I know that you are partied with the Orisa. If Orisa wants to push forward, she needs to be with you when she does. She can, and it's not the best use of the ability in the world, and it can get her in a lot of trouble, but she can use Fortify to push forward, right? But if she doesn't have that, 100% you need to be playing with her until she can get a shield down. Because she'll just die, and so will the people behind her, especially when they have a Widow. Having a little bit of coordination with the other tank that you're playing with about how you're going to create space, who pushes forward, that's always a good thing. I don't want to criticise Orisa too much, but they wasted Fortify. And then this was a really poor shield placement. And then they decided to push past the shield when the enemy team has a Widow and an Ashe, and your team wants to be playing slow anyway. Shield is doing nothing. Shield's doing nothing again. You are doing solo Sigma plays again, especially when you are down in Orisa, your team needs your shield. I feel like you aren't getting much value out of Accretion. It's a really good ability against a Roadhog or Resing Mercy. You could use it on the Rhine if you have an off angle. But if you don't have a reason to use it that can interrupt something or is likely to get followed up on by your team, then it's best to just hold it, because ranked is a wonderful, strange place where anything can happen, and you don't know, you could turn around a couple seconds later to see Roadhog high-fiving your Ana. Shield again. Okay, shield's not doing anything again. I'll stop mentioning it now because you kind of get my point by now. Double shield is not double shield if you only use your shield to protect yourself, and you don't really need to do it. Using it to shut down a Widow, Ashe or Roadhog, or using it to block heals to the Reinhardt is going to get you so much more value than just using it for yourself. Unlucky! The enemy let you res for some reason. Why? 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 What follow-up will your team have on that? Riddle me that. Ah. Okay, okay. Okay, we got Big German Man. We die. We die again. And then we lose. GG. Let's talk about your Sigma gameplay. Okay, so before I start, I noticed that you weren't really Hulk rocking with your Orisa despite being duoed with her. This might be a console thing, I don't know if it's harder to achieve or something. But if you duo with that Orisa often, it might be worth practicing because you can get some insane picks with it. Okay, so first point, your positioning was the main problem with your gameplay. You need to be holding your DPS's hand throughout most of the game. You taking off angle is great most of the time, but only with your team. If you take an off angle by yourself, then it's really easy to pressure you out and your DPS won't get as much value because they will be punished easier too, or they'll be forced to stick with your Orisa. I also want you to consider positioning with your Orisa more often. Off angles are like hardcore carry mode and will get you insane value, definitely ranked. So don't stop doing that, definitely do not stop doing that. But if you aren't getting much value from your angles, your DPS aren't with you, or you have an ultimate like Baptiste window, then consider positioning with your Orisa. In fact, just look at the ultimates on your team and have a think to yourself which ones you can enable. Shielding High Noon, Visor, Barrage, Death Blossom, Whole Hog. In fact, pretty much any aggressive ultimates can be aided by Sigma. and doing that will help your team carry so much. You also need to be quicker shutting down the enemy team's angles. If Roadhog is behind your team being a pain, if Widowmaker is shooting your backline, if Roadhog is hooking your team and you allow it to happen, that's almost always a mistake from you. Other than that, your ultimates need a fair bit of improvement. Sigma ultimates is a great mid-fight ability when the enemy team engages you or you engage the enemy team. But popping it too early means your team won't be able to follow up on it. And popping it and then flying randomly in the air will get you killed. Moving on, you wasted your accretion fairly constantly on shields. If you don't need to use it, don't. It can act as a deterrent instead. Keep your shield on higher HP. Your shield is really mobile and has a billion uses, but if you get into the mid-fight, where you want to be hard punishing the enemy, and you don't have a shield available, or it's low, then the DPS you are with and yourself won't be able to push and punish the enemy that you want to, and you probably won't be able to get out safely. It wasn't the biggest deal in the world in this game, but if you are pushing without a healer, be really careful. If the enemy decides to hard push you, then you'll probably die. Next, if you're playing with your friend Orisa person again, and they're trying to take space, then use your shield and grasp to help them. And last but not least, I'm nearly finished, I promise. It's really important that you try to gain more awareness of what's going on around you with your team and the enemy team. If you don't know where the enemy Roadhog is, if you don't know where your soldier is, if you don't know where the enemy Widowmaker or Ashe is, then you should probably try to find out and change your gameplay accordingly. Sigma's job involves shutting down a lot of enemy heroes, gaining map control and preventing the enemy setting up and rotating and enabling your own team's DPS. Luckily, he does have the ability to constantly look around between shots, and I would use that because the value you get out of Sigma play is directly proportional to how much awareness you have of what everyone else is doing around you. Anyways, that is it from me. I wish you the very best of luck to you and your friend on getting to GM. I hope I have helped keep up the grind, and if anybody wants a VOD review, then hit me up in the comments or something. Any questions? Chuck those down below too. Damn, you have made my voice hurt with all this talking. Anyways, I will see you next time. Adios!